It's Friday, October 6th, 2023. Start out with our traditional shill segment. Patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare is where you can go to support the show using the Patreon platform. You can also go to the show homepage, and to your right, as you face your screen, you shall see a vertical array of rounded squares with different iconography within. The first one is a PayPal logo that lets you donate using PayPal. You will see one that appears to be a somewhat short book with a bookmark. That will take you to Lando's Amazon author page. There is a little image of a skull, which I'll probably update because it's not a great picture now that I look at it. That will take you to my Linktree for all my art stuff. I know for an art link, it's not the best piece of art. It didn't color very well, but anyway. And then on the bottom is the show YouTube channel. Now I will give a bit of a teaser. And I talked about this in the 5 from last week. So the fact that there's not going to be any 5s in October should not be a surprise to anybody if you heard that one. But on the off chance you don't listen to the 5, well, if you don't listen, you wouldn't care. So I guess that doesn't matter. So, but if you skipped last Thursday's 5 and thought there was some reason there weren't any, there's not going to be any in October. Just as a reminder, no 5s. I am taking it off because I have too many giant shows coming out. So, plus I just need a break. So it will be all super late nights in October, just giant long shows all month. And as part of that, for once, I am going to tell people to go to the show YouTube page, not this week, but next. So the Monday after this show posts. Because the first of the John Carpenter retrospectives is coming out, and I actually did a shit ton of work on that video. It is not just, as most of the shows are.
Did you do the puppets?
No, we did not. We could not figure. There was no way to get the puppets in time. No. Instead, I have the clips from the movies playing. I have behind the scenes images. I have little things pointing out stuff.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Oh yeah.
You did like one of those documentaries. Yeah.
This. Sort of.
Ken Burns it. Ken Burns it. You move the photos slowly across.
There's one or two particular things in it that I am actually pretty proud of because I had to do some serious work to get. Not serious work, but I had to actually pay attention. But yes, let's put it this way: my folder for just that show is 30 gigabytes and counting, just for the files involved to get the video. It's a 3-hour video, so there's a So normally I say, the YouTube channel is basically throwaway garbage, which it normally is. Or it's our video game things, which are lightly edited, to say the least, if they're edited at all. But this one I actually created. I did some work on it, so I think it will be. I'm not saying that you can't listen to the audio version because there's going to be the clip. The same clips are there, and initially I didn't plan to actually put the video clips with them, and then I thought, well, if it's going to post to YouTube, I might as well make it something. So I basically go in and kind of fade in on the clips and they play and it comes out. There's like things that indicate, there's behind the scenes imagery of stuff. I went and found all these images of the movies and, I did some work on it. I'm not going to say it's a professional level video by any stretch of the imagination, but I would probably put 7 or 8 hours into it all told. So, and it is 3 hours long. So yeah, you'll have to buckle in for that. But there is an intermission. There is a literal 1-minute intermission in it, so that's a good place to break. Yeah. So that will be out. That will be the
good.
first of 3.
It's good to build new things.
It was a lot of fun. I did have a lot of fun with it. I didn't hit any major frustration points like I expected to. Yeah. No, I really at one point was like, oh man, I'm going to get an hour and a half into this and I'm going to hit something that's just going to make me so infuriated that I'll stop. But fortunately, it never happened.
You're like, fuck this all. Yeah.
Well, the honestly, the most annoying part is having to listen to so much of my own voice, which I don't like to hear. I'm not one of these people that's entertained by hearing my own voice.
Yeah,
so,
do I, yeah.
I mean, there's certain times where I was like, oh, God, why did I say that like that? Jeez, what the hell's wrong with me? But then the other thing is you can't just... for our normal shows, I think most people, there's not much of a visual aspect to them. So it doesn't really matter. We're not... Even with the movie reviews, it doesn't feel like I have to have clips playing. I could not do this for every one of our shows. I could not do this every single Friday show that we do. I couldn't do it. I already know that. But with this one, because we're at times talking about the visuals so much...
Yeah, you're focused. You're centered around an idea.
Yeah, or for example...
Oh, man. Could you imagine trying to find imagery for all the shit that comes out of our mouths?
Oh, no. That's the other thing is we're way too randomized. It was easier because I know that we're talking about 2 movies. I know the movies. I have the movies on my Plex server, so I have the files. But there's a part where I'm talking about how in Assault on Precinct 13, as an example, there's a look that's very important. So even though the audio plays, there's a space in that audio. Well, you can't hear the look. So I wanted to emphasize, because I say, make sure you look. Because I wasn't thinking about this when I said it. I was thinking about this as, oh, remember this when you watch the movie. But now, and there's a part where I read the opening of Escape from New York where the hijackers are reading their manifesto before they crash the plane. And I read it, and literally at the end of me reading it, I said, I really should just put the clip in of this instead of me reading it. So you hear my voice fade off, and then I just play the video with the actual audio, and then it followed up with me going, I should really just insert the clip here, because it made more sense. But I didn't have any plan for that initially. And then as I was sitting here, I'm going, well, if we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be, we're talking about the visuals, I'm gonna at least attempt it. And then it was fun. It's a lot of work. I mean, editors do, and this is not heavy duty editing by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a lot of work, but it is fun work. I actually have been entertained by trying to, because I don't want there to be too long of a stretch where you just see the background imagery. I want to keep, like, every so often putting a visual that goes with what we're saying or whatever. And so that's where the work is, just going and finding things and then reformatting them to HD so that they fill the screen properly. Stuff like that. Not work that's grueling or anything, but it does, you have to do a bunch of it. So anyway, that'll be coming out. So that'll be out on Monday. So look forward to that.
So is there going to be an audio only version?
Oh yeah. No, the show will post like normal. No, it'll be normal.
So there's a normal show and then there's a special edition.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, they will post the show as any other late night would, as a standard issue, audio only. It works perfectly fine. And then the YouTube one is basically, yes, like an enhanced version. So for some people, you do not need to watch the YouTube video. Will some things work a little better? Probably. Sure. But I don't think it's a drastically different thing. It's more of a, oh, look at that. He went and made something. Oh, how cute. What a moron. That's it. So. And there, like I said, there will be 3 of those at least this month. And then I think there's at least one more late night that's coming out outside of the one that posted the beginning of this week. So yeah, there's I just have a lot of long shows, and I'm just sitting here going, I got nowhere else to put these things. So that's just how it works.
Well, it's the whole running out of time thing,
I also just wanted a break from doing fives for a little bit. Yeah, I like doing them, but I don't mind not doing them for a month. Let's put it like that. Just to,
Well, see if people miss them.
Oh, I think people comment on them, so I know people will miss them. But that's why I'm saying it's not permanent. I will start doing them again. But it also gives me some time to kind of watch some stuff and bank some things and not have to always be stressed out when it's 11 a.m. and I don't have a 5 ready, which happens a lot. And I really hate it. But sometimes
I try to text you when I see weird shit. I'm always kind of like, I should text him about this because, if he can't think of something, he might be like, oh yeah, Lando sent me that thing.
Sure.
I can bitch about that. you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, or analyze it, or
Right.
Yes.
So that's it for the prequel segment.
Well, I saw something
segment.
weird.
Yeah.
I wanted to share with you.
Sure.
So I had no plans on this. This isn't a review. I'll put it like that because I don't think it merits a review because I wasn't giving it that much attention, but I just want to do a heads up. So I saw the Blue Beetle movie.
Oh, yeah. What'd you think?
It is a really great Hispanic kids movie.
Yeah, I read it was very, very well done for the audience it was aiming at.
Yeah,
but I also read
it's
it was
very
good in
much.
general. I like the kid in it. That's the Cobra Kai kid. I've seen him. I
Oh,
know he's
is
a good
it?
actor.
Oh,
The
yeah.
main guy,
There you
the
go.
main kid in that, or I guess I should say guy,
Yeah.
not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's one of the
So,
main
it's
characters
definitely-
in Cobra Kai.
It's definitely a family movie. It's more. See, I guess the reason I wanted to bring it up is because it so is because
I know, I'm just
DC movies up to now have just steadily gotten more gritty and more, like it's like Man of Steel. There's it's just it's something that started with Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder took the whole thing in this very hardcore mean, and it's not just, I guess it shouldn't just be him because Nolan did it to some extent, but even Nolan didn't go as far as Snyder because even Nolan had his moments where Batman's giving the kid his weird bat tool, and even Nolan harkens back, of all the characters you can be dark with, Batman is the character that you can kind of be darkest with.
You
right?
know what? I have a theory on
Yeah.
how this happened.
Go ahead.
Now, I doubt it was as explicitly stupid as this, but it was probably a more broadly extended version of this exact scenario. Okay, this is DC people in a big boardroom, suits. All right, well, these Nolan movies made a bunch of money, but Chris doesn't want to come back. He wants to do something different. So, I want to. We got to keep this going. So let's talk to some people and see if we get anybody else who, does what Nolan did. Well, excuse me, Jefferson. What did Nolan do? Oh, that's a very good question, George. What he did was, hold on, let me find my paperwork. Okay, he deconstructed what Batman is in a realistic noir setting. So let's find somebody who says something like that. Oh, sounds good, Jefferson. Let's bring somebody in. Bring some people in. I want to do something fun and colorful. It's not what Nolan did. Thanks for coming in. All right, next guy. Oh, Mr. Snyder. Yeah. What would you do with these properties if we gave them to you? Well, when I did Watchmen, one of the things I did was I tried to deconstruct the idea of the superhero. I really wanted to break it down and get into the gritty realism. Thank you. Sign it. That's him. It's him. He said it was on the sheet. Let's do it. Just do whatever the fuck you want. It made us money before. Print money for us. Okay, I will.
And that's the thing is everything from that time on has been it's been the gritty DC,
because that's what made the
universe.
money was somebody else.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, but the problem is it was just not the characters. So with this Blue Beetle thing, what's fascinating to me about this movie is that they're acknowledging that there was a Blue Beetle. So this is a near future movie. What's his name? Ted Cord. Is that his name?
Cord. Yep.
Yeah, Ted Cord was the Blue Beetle, right? When he was a young man. When this movie begins, Ted Cord is missing, and essentially there's some other alien device that's like the Blue Beetle device that he was getting kind of his technology from, and somebody else, basically the Cobra Kai kid, he gets it, but it's it's very Iron Man. I have to say, this is definitely in the same way that they wanted Batman to be everything. Someone at DC was like, make Iron Man, but for us. And this is very much that, except they had the added property of having the fact that somebody had been the Blue Beetle. So you get to see all the old Blue Beetle suits, and he has the Blue Beetle ship that shows up at one point. So there's that, right? They don't sorry, the cough. They don't disregard.
You muted it real well. Good job.
I always mute my coughs because my coughs.
No, you did it. That sounded like it came up on you. So yeah.
No, my coughs and sneezes can blow speakers. So, but yeah, so they don't disregard the Chee-See Dee-See 80s-ness of it. The movie has got a very 80s neon look to it, but like at one point they pull out gadgets, like old Blue Beetle's gadgets, and he literally has a glove. It's literally a power glove that he like attached technology to. Like there's a lot of 80s vibe to this movie, right? But beyond that, the new Blue Beetle, it's very Iron Man. The suit, the quote-unquote alien suit, has a woman's voice. The heads up is very much like Iron Man. I mean, this is basically Alien Iron Man. You could have titled this Alien Iron Man, and it would have summed up the movie very well, right? Now, that said, what's interesting about it is that it is, in fact, a very family movie, even though it deals with very heavy topics like corporations, basically, and the rich pushing out the poverty-stricken areas to build new high-rises and whatnot. It is still a movie that's very much about family, and the main character has a big family and is trying to protect them. And at no point does it get dark and gritty. Like it feels like a very light, comedic, fun movie. My kids, who usually put up resistance when we put on some sort of new flick without letting them see a trailer, were like in it right away. So I guess it's kind of a parent tip if you're looking for something that's like a lighthearted family Alien Iron Man. Watch Blue Beetle with your kids. Beyond that, though, the downside, it's not original. I mean, it's your classic origin movie. It's missing Robert Downey Jr.'s wit. There's a lot of funny references to it, especially if you're Hispanic. For me, especially, like the main guy's grandmother, she dresses and acts like my grandmother did, and her two sisters. There's a lot of Hispanic reference in it, which I thought was hilarious, which you might not catch. But yeah, it's not. Beyond that, it's not necessarily original, and at times, it almost feels, and this is both a compliment and a put down. It feels like a Marvel movie. Thoughts? Feelings?
Well, you say that it's a good and a bad, so you have to explain a little more.
Okay, so
it's.
I think
initial
hold
thoughts.
on.
So let me
I'll
preface
explain
this.
it.
Hold on, before you explain it.
Yeah.
Saying something feels like a Marvel movie tells me nothing on its own, because there are good Marvel movies. And there are bad ones.
So what I mean by it's both a positive and negative. It's a compliment and an insult. Is that it's an insult in the sense that it's not original. It's got some original ideas. They've brought in different cultural ideas. In that respect, it's not. It is original. It does have new elements. It's not original though because they're using a lot of the Marvel formula. So, if the only difference between the Cobra Kai kid and Robert Downey Jr. is that Robert Downey Jr. was essentially the billionaire tech guy who made the suit, right? Whereas this movie basically says, well, there was a billionaire tech guy in the 80s, and now you've got the alien Iron Man suit that he was trying to unlock, right? And this new kid is not witty like Iron Man, but he's also not coming from a position of, a billionaire playboy who realizes he should do more for the world. He comes from a working class family that's about to lose its house, and it's a very different sort of socio status. You know what I mean? Like to have a character basically come from that level of poverty, right? That's different, but they're using the Marvel formula, and it's. I hope that it is not. I'm hoping that DC hasn't just turned around and said, right, let's just do everything Marvel does. You know what I mean? It's the same. What made us money before? Batman. We'll make every movie Batman. I'm hoping that they're not just saying we're going to make every movie Marvel, because, doing everything the same doesn't work. There might be a few good ones in there, but like, you're not going to make. You can't. I don't think you can make a light and friendly Batman movie. I think that like the Michael Keaton Batman is about as light and friendly a Batman movie as you should make. But that's my opinion. But that's what I mean when I say it's both a compliment and a insult, because it's nice that they're getting away from the everything has to be dark and gritty. I just hope that this is not their new model of we'll just make them all formulaic Marvel movies. I hope this is the beginning of a more colorful, fun version of the DC movies. But do you know, is Blue Beetle part of the James Gunn initiative?
Or is this something that... so. My understanding is that the Flash movie was the last of the non-Gunn associated films. That was the end of the Snyderverse. So I believe Blue Beetle is considered part of Gunn's, like, I don't know whether, how much it'll be incorporated, but it's not one of the things that's being retconned or written out. You know what I mean? It will exist.
Yeah.
Here it is. Blue Beetle director confirms it is part of James Gunn. I thought so. Because I remember them saying that the Flash was basically the sealing off cauterization of the Snyder stuff. So yes, it is. But I don't know that you're going to suddenly. Well, I mean,
no. I like that, the cauterization. Yeah.
As far as will there be a Justice League where he shows up, I don't know about
so
that.
Listen,
it is part of it.
It wasn't a great movie. It wasn't a bad movie. It was a fun movie. It was. There's a certain class of movie. Like, my kids will rewatch this. Will I? No. But does it show promise for a new DC universe? Yes, it did show promise. I am hopeful because it wasn't that level of miserable. So I'm glad I saw it. I don't need to see it again necessarily, but considering that I had no interest in seeing this, and then I saw that it popped out, and I was like, you know what, my kids might enjoy this. I saw the trailer and I thought, yeah, they might enjoy this, and then they really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed it. Now, I'm gonna be honest though, I think a lot of my enjoyment also came from the fact that there was a lot of very funny Hispanic references, kind of to my childhood in there.
Well, that's
as well.
good. That's great.
So
listen, that I talk about the fact that I am delighted that I get to find new cultural things in movies that I don't understand. I like that stuff.
Oh, yeah, then you'll get a lot of that because.
Well, I mean, I do want to watch Blue Beetle mostly because, like I said, number one, I like George Lopez. Is that his name?
Yes. Oh, yes. And he's very good. He's
right.
very.
I
good
read he was great, and I'm like, okay.
As the paranoid, tech savvy uncle.
Yeah. See,
like the scene. I'll be honest with you. The scene when the Blue Beetle alien Iron Man suit first appears. Right? If anybody else had done this scene, so basically the guy, he's sitting there, the Cobra Kai kid has been given a device to hide from the old Blue Beetle's daughter, who now co-runs Cord with Cord Industries with Susan Sarandon. Susan Sarandon is essentially Jeff Bridges' character in Iron Man, right?
Ironmonger, whatever his name is.
Yeah, she's Ironmonger. She wants to take the company in a different direction, except rather than build a suit, she's built a guy to be her Ironmonger, right? So then she's trying to kind of strong arm the original Blue Beetle's daughter out. The Blue Beetle is trying to escape, gives through a happenstance, gives him this device in a box, says, "Don't open it, protect this, I'll come find you and get it." And he's hoping that this will get him a job. So he takes it. So when he brings it home, they open it up because his family's like, "Oh, you're not going to look at it? Come on, you totally got to look at it. You got to know what it is. Come on." So he opens it up, and they're fucking around with it. And it's this big, bejeweled, almost looking Blue Beetle. At which point it attaches itself to his face. And now, what could have been a very sort of grotesque, harrowing sequence of this thing fusing with his body, because a lot of the imagery is there. I mean, it's literally coming out of him and burning his. There's a great line where he says, "I think it's in my body." There's all these lines that when you take them out of context, you're like, that could have been really frightening. It's in his body. It starts to come out of his mouth. It's like black goo. It's consuming him. It burns his clothes off. He gets like stuck to the ceiling of the house, almost like it's something out of like, oh my god, the like he's being possessed, right? All of that in another director's hands could have been horrifying. It could have been terrible. And if it had been in like the old like kind of Zack Snyder verse, it would have been this like graphic, terrible, people crying, Instead, it's probably one of the funniest parts of the movie because he's there with his Hispanic family sitting around the table. They're fucking around with it, and suddenly it gets set off, and everybody starts freaking the fuck out. And like his uncle tries to pull it off, and it shoots him across the room, and he's complaining that he just about shit himself, and the suit is thrown around, and he's like smashing everything. He falls on the table. People are throwing shit. Like it becomes this radically ridiculous scene with this horrifying thing kind of at the center of it. But it's almost like, imagine if the scene in Alien had been handled by where the thing pops out of his chest, and they'd managed to somehow make it funny. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that kind of thing. Like this is the difference between this movie and a lot of the other DC. Any other DC director would have made this, just, yeah, they would have gone for like it's just so disturbing, this thing he has to go through. Instead, they turn it into this Hispanic family dinner mayhem. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. And I have a feeling it's going to be one of those movies my kids watch a few times. And it makes me curious to see what the future of DC looks like. If this is the direction they want to go in, I'm kind of okay with that. Will they be the greatest movies? No, but will we definitely see them? Yeah, probably. Like I have no interest in showing my kids Man of Steel. I love Henry Cavill, but I have no interest in showing my kids Man of Steel. It's a depressing movie. Like I caught it the other day. I was in a waiting room and it was like on TV there, and I'm watching. I'm like, man. I was like, I love Henry Cavill. I really do. It's not that he is a bad Superman. It's that everything around him.
It's a bad version of Superman. It's not any. Well, it's the story. It's not anything else.
Yeah, Russell Crowe is still awesome. Like I guess that's I think that's what angers me so much.
Everybody in the movie is
Russell Crowe is so great. Yeah,
it's
so there's no color. They washed it out. It's all fucking like these it's like someone just fucking
dildo
tried
rockets.
Yeah, it's just so grim, And then the final solution is like, the whole my dad would rather die than have people know that I'm Superman. It's like, really? It's like that's the message, the only way to stop General Zod is to break his neck, it's like to rip his head off, and it's like, okay. So yes, it's so grim that I have no interest in showing my kids Man of Steel as much as I like Henry Cavill. And therein, I think for my kids, I'm just skipping all of the Zack Snyderverse, because whereas there are interesting moments, I showed them Wonder Woman. I did show them that, but Wonder Woman itself is kind of like, it doesn't feel like a Snyderverse movie. But remember we talked about this? It feels like two movies. It feels like half of it is like very colorful and interesting, and the other half they were like, wait a minute, remember this has to fit into the Zack Snyderverse, So yeah, I'm interested. I want to see what DC is willing to do, because if they made a version of Superman like this that was fun, even a little bit formulaic, you know what? I'll take it. I'll do a lot for fun at this point. So yeah, and didn't James Gunn say he's going for like an alternate version of Superman? Isn't he doing I thought I heard something that he was doing the Black Superman.
No, that was originally being talked about, but I think he got bullied into not doing that.
Oh.
No, he's gone back to just, okay, it's the same old Superman and Lois. Yeah. Yep.
That's a shame.
No, he originally talked about either doing the Black Superman or the gay Superman, and now he's suddenly run back to it's Clark Kent and Lois Lane. So I have a feeling.
Hold on. Which is the gay Superman?
His son.
Oh, okay.
Superman's
So
son.
Superman's son. Yes, got it.
Yeah, which I think is Cal Kent with a C, I want to say. Hold on.
Cal Kent.
No, I'm sorry. It is with a K. He is the Superman of the 850th. Wait. No, this is a different one. Sorry. What is it? Oh, no, it's Jonathan because he named her after his dad. He named him Jonathan.
So it's Jonathan Kent.
I think it's Jon Kent. I think.
Got it.
I think it's John Kent. Yeah. But yes, that was originally what
So
he was talking about, and
okay,
that has suddenly become nothing.
Yeah, so basically the studio was like, have fun with it, James Gunn, but not that much fun.
No. Superman has to look a certain way. Okay.
Well, that doesn't mean he can't be gay. Gay people can look like anybody
No.
else. Yeah, I mean, listen, Chris. There's no way in hell you could tell me that looking at Christopher Reeve Superman, that man couldn't have been a very gay Superman.
No.
You know,
That's not
like
the,
in fact,
not what people want.
I'll go so far as to say, does it really matter who Superman is banging?
Yes.
I mean,
yes, it certainly does.
why can't
communist.
Why can't it be Lewis Lane? They're spelled the same.
No. Take your weirdo alternative lifestyle, bleeding heart liberalism, and get fucked because Superman is straight and he's banging
Superman's
a white woman.
He's a straight Christian man. Everybody knows that. He believes in Jesus Christ.
Yes, he is, because we all know that Krypton was very religious.
Evangelical. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that never comes up. The fact that Krypton was a place that had no belief in religion. You don't hear that particular.
Well, that's why they were
smited.
That's why God blew their planet up.
Oh,
and
you know what?
Their
You're
only
right.
son.
You're right.
To
Earth. but they
Yeah.
sent their cape to Jesus Christ still survived somehow. Oh, because he had to come to America and uphold the Christian stuff. I got it.
Uphold God. Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, John Kent, yes, is the son of Clark Kent, who is. I don't know if he's bisexual or gay. I can't remember. Hold on. But, he's not straight. Well, I guess if you're bisexual, he's straight plus.
I know. So my next question was, did he have any good storylines? Or was this just one of those?
It's still ongoing. No, he's still
Oh, is it
ongoing.
good? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See, I hate it when they do that thing where they're like, "Hey, we got a character that's gay," and then they don't do anything with the character.
No, he's actually apparently he's in an animated film from a year or two ago.
Oh, good. Because remember when Marvel was
Not
like, "We've got a gay
bisexual,
character," and they're like, "You do?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's North Star," and we were all like, "Really, really?" Like when they at least said that Iceman was gay, I was like, you know what? I'll give you that. Iceman, Bobby Drake is a core character, and they've done some cool shit with him. I was like, but North Star is the most B character. You know, if I asked you, and you know what, and DC did it too.
Well, that was the equivalent of remember when Disney said, "Oh, we have lesbians in Star Wars," and it was two women in the very background kissing once in the whole movie. They're like, see, representation.
DC was like, we've got a gay character. It's the original Golden Age Green Lantern. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? Have you done anything with that character? You're giving us backwater characters here. So the fact that it's
Alan Scott is now gay?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, because, okay, in fairness, I don't give a shit about Alan Scott because he's not a real Green Lantern.
But that's my point, is that rather than give it they pulled a North Star. They were like, oh, it's they announced that he was a gay character, and they're like, see, we have inclusion.
That's why I don't know, because I don't follow Alan Scott.
Because you don't care, because he's not really, he's a magic Green Lantern. It makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So it's not because I don't care because he's gay. I don't know because I never cared about Alan Scott.
He's just not a good character. They haven't done anything with him.
Except the one time he was good was when they made him a real Green Lantern, which was in Kingdom Come, where he is a real Green Lantern and not that stupid, alternate one. Remember in Kingdom Come, I mean, they never really specifically say he's part of the... Well, I think they do say that he's part of the Corps. I'm trying to remember.
Do they? I can't remember that.
Yeah, because he's up in the space station. Actually, you know what? I don't think they ever specify, but he looks like he belongs with the other ones. Like his armor is all green. Like he looks like the classic Green Lantern. He doesn't have the red cape or whatever. That dumbass.
Yeah.
His outfit's awful.
With the green and the red with the cape. And the sad thing about him is that every time he shows up, whenever I've read like Justice League comics, or no, Justice Society comics, or he has like kind of butt up against Starman in his comics, something like that, Alan Scott, the character, is kind of a neat person. They set him up as this very kind of reserved. Oh man, like how to describe him?
He just always seems weird.
Really? To me, he always seems like a really. It's gonna sound awful, like a really good guy.
Well, that's what I meant to say. Is he's an anachronistic. He's almost like what they try to do with Shazam, where he's like, haha, I represent the 50s version of a goofy superhero. Ha ha.
But I'm also not going to let you down. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of interesting thing. It's the so
he has no flaws. He has no personality. He seems very boring.
He does. He was a closeted homosexual. That's their angle,
you know what? You know what? I didn't realize that they now claim that he's the first gay superhero because they retroactively made him gay, and he's like the first. So this is why they did it.
Retroactive homosexuality?
Well, yeah, because now that
Can we do that to any characters we feel like it?
Yeah, you can. If a character says, well, I was always gay, I just never wanted to say anything because of society. Well, now you've retroactively made them gay.
I really hope that they start just retroactively like dropping that bomb on everybody.
Oh, they've done a bunch of it. They've done it a bunch of times. It's just, Anyway,
I know.
Fuck out. I don't care.
This goes back
not because he's gay, because I don't care. That's
but that's what I mean. It goes back to the whole they North Starred it. They basically picked a character. They were like, no one's really gonna care if he's gay, so we'll just do that. It's like no, they should have come out and been like, you know what, guys, Batman is gay. He was always gay. He still is gay. Midnighter is just right. Right?
Yeah.
Instead, they're like, well, it's Golden Age Green Lantern. He's gay. Is there a Golden Age Batman? There isn't a Golden Age Batman. There's Golden Age Green Lantern.
No, he is the Golden Age Batman.
Who?
Batman. Oh. Batman's Golden Age, isn't he? I'm pretty sure.
Batman is Batman in every iteration.
Yeah, Green Lantern is one of the few that has. Well, okay. Again, Alan Scott is not a Green Lantern. I don't care what the fuck they say. The Alan Scott thing is even stupider than most things.
But doesn't he predate the Green Lanterns? That's the joke of it. They made him first.
Yes, he was the Green Lantern. Okay, so technically, let me strip away my.
He was a Green Lantern that they came up with.
Right, he was a completely different type of character with the same name as the Green Lanterns that came after him. And rather than, here's the stupidity of DC, if I can go off on a tangent for a moment.
By all means.
Instead of more logically and more interestingly and more intelligently, to put three things, let's do rule of threes, retroactively making him an actual Green Lantern that then fits in with all the others, they did this cheap shit thing where it's very obvious he was not gay in the older comics. Give me a fucking break. They just put that in there so they can claim representation, just like a lot of these things do. They never actually played him in any. There is no way. It's just, this shit annoys me because it's all fucking performative. But instead of making the character make sense, because what you have now is he's the Green Lantern who's not a Green Lantern, which isn't at all confusing for people who haven't followed this shit their whole lives. So they're like, well, wait a minute. Why does he look completely different power set, different origin story? His shit doesn't work at all the same, yet he's got the same title as the rest of these people,
and he's
all
got
of whom are the same.
And he's got a weakness for wood, doesn't he?
Yes.
Oh, wait. Man,
yes.
Sorry. That's actually quite funny.
That is very funny. I didn't catch that. That's funny.
That just occurred to me. Alan Scott, the gay Green Lantern, he has a weakness for wood.
You know what? And you know what really is infuriating about that joke too? If you actually, that some of the people that work at DC make that joke and they're not joking. They're not doing it in a light way. They're doing it. Well, it's a good thing we made him gay because he's got a weakness for wood, huh, Bill?
Whereas, but all the other Green Lanterns have a weakness to yellow, so it's like what?
So you can piss on him and you kill him, right? It is.
It depends on how hydrated you are.
Well, that's true. Well, hey, look, I don't think the tint of yellow has anything to do with it. As long as you haven't, yes, you can actually pee clear. So I guess if you drank 10 tons of water and peed 4 or 5 times right afterwards, they'd be okay.
So Sinestro's backup weapon is dehydration.
Well, I don't know what. There must be some vegetable or something that makes your pee very yellow. So I would guarantee that if Sinestro's mainlining that all day, just in case his ring falls off, he can still piss all over them.
He can piss his way out of a Green Lantern Armada.
Listen, let me tell you something, and this is actually in all seriousness. Most of the time, they fight in space. Therefore, if he pisses and blows on it hard enough, since there's no inertia, he could kill them. Because it would just keep accelerating, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
So it would be like a hail of piss bullets. And it would just tear
yellow.
Somebody
yellow
illustrate
piss
that.
bullets. Yeah.
I should do it. I should do it where somebody's being ripped apart by yellow piss and just being shredded.
Oh, geez. Like, of all ways to go.
Like Sonny from The Godfather. I should just recolor that where he's all chewed up in the car and make it yellow. And it's like, this is what the Green Lanterns look like if Sinestro pisses at them hard enough. But in any event, so rather than do something like that would actually make Alan Scott better, they do this thing. And I would love to know if they've used it in any way that's meaningful. I would almost guarantee they have not.
What, the Alan Scott?
That he's gay.
The gay.
Yeah. I mean, what? Maybe look, there are people who still read comics way more than I do. If there are good examples, I would love to know.
Listen,
I don't believe there are.
No. At the end of the day, it's all about representation. Like, I watched the Blue Beetle, and the fact that it's the main character is Hispanic with a Hispanic family. You know what? You don't see that a lot in superhero movies. You don't.
Well, no. Okay. Be careful when you say that. It's not just all about representation. It's about meaningful and sincere representation.
But representation. Okay. Meaningful representation matters when you become old enough to reason. But when you're younger, right? Just having representation at all goes a long way. To know that there is at least someone like you out there that you can read about or watch a movie about. And the thing is, when you're a kid, you don't really know the difference between good stories and bad stories. It's all just stories. You know, my kids watch awful movies. Like movies that I sit there and I'm like, you know what, my daughter really likes that game Among Us. You know that game, the space murder.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, she loves that game. She's listening to Among Us themed rap music. Right? It's pretty awful. She fucking loves it because it's people rapping about the game that she really likes to play. And I'm like, okay, cool. We're gonna pay money for this, I guess. And that's what she likes. She doesn't, So yes, good representation is better, but any representation is also important. But what's funny is that I'm looking at this, and I was looking for a list of gay superheroes, and you know what I realized? A lot of these characters, I don't know if they're actually. Well, I guess they are gay, aren't they? Well, Wonder Woman. Is Wonder Woman gay?
I don't think so.
Like, because she's on the gay list. That's awful, the gay list. Jesus.
Wait, what gay list?
Top 12 LGBTQ superheroes in DC and Marvel Comics.
Wait, DC has tripped over their own petard here. Because now Wonder Woman is the first. Oh, okay, because Alan Scott's gay. He can be the first gay superhero, so Wonder Woman is now the first bisexual superhero. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, she's bisexual. Listen,
but of all the characters, by the way, Wonder Woman is the most perfectly positioned to be essentially pansexual. I don't know why they even contain it to buy.
Apparently Deadpool is pansexual.
Well, okay, yeah, but that's Marvel. I'm talking about in DC.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman's origins are already off the beaten path of sexuality. If you actually go research them. Yeah. So Wonder Woman, and plus she comes from an island of women.
Amazon women, yes.
Yeah,
just Amazon women, yes.
Yeah. So honestly, that's the character you do it with, because Wonder Woman's whole background, her real origins, her character, it all makes sense for a character who does not define sexuality by let's be honest, what men would define it as. Creator
William Moulton Marston was heavily inspired by his wife Elizabeth and their polyamorous partner.
That's what I'm
Olive
saying.
Byrne, yes.
Yes, that's the character right there.
Yeah.
That's the one you can do so easily. But it's
honestly,
not like
the best gay characters to me in all of comics still is Apollo and the Midnighter. hands down for me. I don't see any
No,
character.
I agree. But what I'm saying is, for characters that they want to go back and suddenly retroactively change.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The one that makes the most sense is Wonder Woman.
I thought the way they did it with Harley Quinn was very organic and
That's
very
a new
natural.
character.
I know it's a new character, but the whole idea that she broke away from the Joker's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
and
that's fine.
Her relationship with Poison Ivy has become like a full-on. I think that's great.
I'm more talking about if they want to take a big name historic character and suddenly change their backstory. Wonder Woman takes the least to change to make it fit into a modern sexual context. Alan Scott, no. Like you said, North Star, throwaway. A lot of these are just dismissed. I mean, Deadpool. The problem is, I don't know that everybody in the community that Deadpool belongs to would find him to be a very good representation of them. But I can't speak to it myself. But he comes off as almost a too jokey character but I don't know. Whatever. I'm saying that from my point of view. But Wonder Woman is the one where if you're going to go back and change one of the big mainstay 50 plus years history characters and say, well, actually this character the whole time was X, Wonder Woman is the most natural fit. Because the character's always been there, even if it was never explicitly said that way. So it's very easy to just say, yes, you know what? Wonder Woman doesn't care. Look at her background. Why would she? And it's like, yeah, why would she? It doesn't make any sense. It makes complete sense and doesn't trip over anything to say Wonder Woman is in fact a pansexual being. Nobody should even think twice about that. Of course she would be. Anyway. I don't give a shit about Alan Scott. I don't hate Alan Scott the way I do Kyle Rayner. I don't find Alan Scott to be an insult to me as a reader. But Alan Scott has always been disposable. And so changing him to now be the first gay superhero, whatever the fuck that means nothing. Because I doubt most people know who he is.
Apollo and the Midnighter, for me, are one of the best characters of representation because yes, they're gay. Yes, they're in a couple. And they are major characters in the Authority. They're two of the core members. And their relationship kind of evolves through the books. And they're a healthy relationship. I mean, I think it's the other thing, too, is that not only do you have two strong gay characters, but they're also in a healthy relationship. One that is that is dynamic and kind of shifts throughout the story, especially when they become parents.
Let's keep something in mind.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because they're not in a mainline comic.
Oh, yeah.
This is the same comic where the engineer fucks the ship. So.
I forgot about that.
I didn't, because that's like, oh, all right, yeah. She's like, you know what? I can't get any satisfaction, so screw it. Literally.
The engineer's banging the ship. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is, of course, they can have an actual adult approach to sexuality because it's not Superman. It's
so weird that Wildstorm managed to have some of the most interesting team books and allowed its universe to kind of evolve in such a weird, natural way. And even though Wildcats is like a really awful, boring team. That didn't get interesting until Alan Moore took over.
That should not be at all surprising because again, it wasn't a mainline book. It was a separate label. It's kind of like when Fury was in Marvel Max or whatever.
But what I mean is that when Wildstorm started out as Image, I'm pretty sure, right? Wait, I believe
that's correct.
So no, because Image is still around. So when did Wildstorm and Image separate?
Oh man, remember it was here, I'll tell you. Here it is.
Hold on.
It was originally founded as an independent company with Jim Lee under Aegis Entertainment and became a publishing imprint of DC in 1998. It was shut down in 2010. Yeah.
All right, 93.
So Image Comics was where it started, which was 1997.
No, you're right. 99. Yeah, they started in 93. And in 99, Jim Lee and Wildstorm left Image, and Lee sold Wildstorm to DC Comics.
Yes.
Oh, you fucker. It's your fault. Oh, well. Once DC got a hold of it, they collapsed it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's why suddenly all these characters suddenly fade into the background until they have a reason to use them. But that's what I'm saying. Of course, in a comic where, again, the publisher says, well, nobody's reading that. Do whatever you want. I don't care. Yeah, you can do that type of thing. That's why Transmet isn't a Marvel book. That's why, that's why Alan Moore's shit isn't, well, except for Swamp Thing. I mean, he had his times, but most of the best Alan Moore stuff is not under a major imprint. Not really.
No, and to be fair, Swamp Thing, even though he is a sort of amorphous swamp creature, is still banging a human woman.
Yeah, he's still a humanoid creature.
Yeah, and he's
having
having a
psychedelic
relationship.
tuber sex with a woman. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she's still taking in a phallic object. So who, whatever, close enough.
Yeah, she's eating his tuber.
She's eating his tuber.
Yeah, which is still probably one of the best sex scenes I've ever read.
No, it is, but it's still contextualized in a traditional heterosexual humanoid manner.
Yeah, yeah, which is amusing coming from Alan Moore because he likes to push the envelope on that.
Well, he probably was told he couldn't push it that far.
He probably wanted to push it really far. Yeah,
that's why he started writing his books outside of everything else and was like, okay, fine. There's usually a point where you see this a lot, where a creator gets to a financial level of stability where they don't have to worry about what anybody's telling them anymore. Or recognition where they can command a price no matter what. And that's usually when they start doing wacko shit. Right? I mean, David Lynch made Twin Peaks Season 3, which is hardly what anybody expected to be the third season of the show. And Showtime basically told him, from what everybody has said, they were like, do whatever you want for this many hours. And he's like, okay. And just did whatever he wanted for that many hours.
That is dangerous. I'll give them that.
But everybody watched it. I mean,
that could have gone a lot of different ways.
It doesn't matter. It delivered the views, and that's all they cared about. He did exactly what they wanted him to do. It wouldn't have mattered if that had been 12 hours of a guy on a toilet reading, I don't know, the Kama Sutra. It still would have commanded the views. They would have been like, yep, it's a masterpiece.
It could have been 12 hours of goat sex, and someone would have been like, yes. Well, what is the deeper statement that he's making here?
Well, forget even the deeper statement. Everybody would watch it if it just says Twin Peaks Season 3. So, yeah, if it's a goat fucking a doorknob, you're still going to watch it. So who cares?
Well, man, if he got him to do that for an entire season, I mean, that's magic.
Well, that's the thing where you get that complete 360 where it starts off as gross and useless. It gets to a point of comedy and then comes back to art. Yeah, it all happens.
Yes.
All you got to do is do it for long enough and it becomes an artistic statement.
Yeah. I don't even know how we got here. How did we get here?
Yeah, we're almost an hour in from Blue Beetle to Goat's fucking doorknobs.
Oh, that's where I was. Yeah, Blue Beetle. So Blue Beetle is fun to watch. That's my commentary.
Great. That's the summary of the Blue Beetle. All that is part of a Blue Beetle review. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, man. Did I have something else? I don't even know if I had anything else.
I don't know.
Fuck.
I have a review if you don't. It's fine.
Oh, by all means, take off. Go for it.
Well, I have a movie review, one that I wasn't expecting to review this. I didn't think it was going to be this type of movie. But I saw a film, and I'll be honest, this is a movie that sold me on its box art. Also the fact that it's a Criterion film. But honestly, even if it hadn't been...
No, really, it's the Criterion.
No. Honestly, in this case, I didn't realize it was Criterion at first. I saw that...
Oh, until afterwards. Interesting.
Right. Yeah. I saw this particular image, which I'm going to send you this image, because this is part of the box art. All right, so I'm going to send you this image here. Just look at this. This is basically a condensed version of that is the cover of the movie.
Interesting. It's like a weird invisible man of mystery type thing.
Yes, sort of.
Okay.
Well, that's what it looks like, right? But it's a very striking image right off the bat. So the name of the movie is The Face of Another. It's from 1966. It's an adaptation of a book by Kobo Abe. I assume is how you pronounce it. The person who wrote The Woman in the Dunes, which is what most people know the author for. I've never read the book. I've always read it's very good. But I saw that artwork and I went, huh.
Interesting.
I'm curious. What is this?
Yeah, so, I just read the ultra short synopsis of it, and it's an interesting idea.
Oh, it's a fascinating. So here's the thing. I expected. This was never intended to be a movie I was actually going to review. I thought this was going to be kind of a movie that was interesting to watch, but maybe not that much to say about. But I didn't realize how artsy-fartsy and avant-garde it is. So that's what makes it different, and that's obviously.
Oh
why
no,
it's part of criteria.
it looks very artsy fartsy.
Well, it's way more than you could even until you start seeing some of the actual movie pictures. So the movie starts out, and right away, when I saw in the first 10 minutes, I'm like, oh no, this is art house with a capital A, capital H, because even the first image, which you can probably actually find, I'm sure it's on, because it's from the 60s. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Just watch the first, let me just make sure this is a real copy. Okay, wow. Somebody ripped the Criterion version. That's hysterical. So if you go to this, just watch the first, I would say 3 or 4 minutes. Skip to 2 minutes 30. Yeah, skip to 2 minutes 30 and just watch it from there. And all you got to do is watch it for a few minutes, and I'll talk about it in the background. So right from the beginning, what we get is imagery of just a crowd of people, which actually reminded me of one of those apocalypse tetralogy movies, the one called War of the Worlds Next Century, I believe. No, it wasn't War of the Worlds. It was the one after that. It was the third movie, where everybody lives in the underground dome, because there's images like that. So it starts off with all these people, and then they have this imagery of a person who's talking, but it's an X-ray version of them. And the person, you don't realize at first what's going on, but what you find out is this X-ray, and this looks, from the 60s. This is a real X-ray motion image of someone talking. You can tell it's not just like a plastic skull, because you see the tongue moving. You can see it's a real person. So what you find out is that this person is talking to a psychiatrist about a workplace accident that basically destroyed his face. So they used, I think he says they used liquid air instead of nitrogen or something, and it must have exploded, or it just ate away his face. They never really make it clear, but there is some type of accident, and it has basically disfigured him horribly. So now I sent Lando an image, and if you look up the movie, you will see that the box art has a person in these bandages that do look a lot like the Invisible Man. Basically, you can see his eyes and his bottom lip, really, and his nose holes. That's it. And so when he talks, it's very disturbing, because you only see that lower lip, and it doesn't quite move right. So it's off-putting because of the motion, more than the fact that he's got bandages.
It's oddly like a robot.
Yes, it comes off like a Doctor Who villain at first, and then you get used to it. But there's all these weird shots throughout the movie, very artistic shots of the psychiatrist's office. Does not look like it exists on planet Earth. It's in this amorphous space with all these prosthetic hands and limbs floating in the air around. It doesn't make any sense as a psychiatrist's office, and yet that's what it is in the movie. So then we immediately go to him, and he's all bandaged, and he's at home, and he's talking about the fact, and he mentions in the opening that his disfigurement, he's like, I might have gotten better. I might have been treated different if this was a war wound. People wouldn't look at me the same way if this had happened in a war, because there's a whole Hiroshima and nuclear side to this thing, which we'll get to. So he's at home, and he's in this. Is it a kimono when a guy wears it too? Is that what the kind of okay? Yes. So he's wearing a kimono, and he's smoking, and he's got these bandages, and he's talking to his wife, and he's talking about the fact that now that he effectively doesn't have a face, he feels like his personality is evaporating and eroding, and he doesn't seem to care about anything. He says something about when you don't have a face, you don't look at people the same way because they're not looking. So there's all this stuff about what your face means to other people and how you interact with other people and how important the face and being able to see somebody's face, which, of course. But there's all this stuff, and then he's talking about, and the wife is obviously very disturbed to even be around him. And he talks about the fact that she doesn't desire him anymore, which of course she doesn't. Look at him. I mean, he looks terrifying.
Just in the first few minutes, there's a really good line in there where he says something about nighttime is the best time for a faceless man.
Yes,
and he suddenly understands all the deep sea fish. The reason they're so ugly is because it doesn't matter, because it's all in the dark,
right? Because nobody sees you anyway. Yeah.
But then when she tries to make light of it, and she says, "Oh, that sounds like a parable," he very quickly snaps at her, and he's like, "It's not a fucking parable." Like he's very
Yes, yeah. He comes
off aggressive.
Calm, he's become
but aggressive.
Yeah. He's not. at first he doesn't seem all that threatening. He just seems like he has lost some of his humanity because he's lost some of his humanity. That's
his
what
interface. He's lost his interface.
Well, yeah, he's saying what is happening and also demonstrating what is happening, which is that this thing, the significant part of what makes people relate to each other, he no longer has. Therefore, he doesn't have part of what makes people relate to one another. And so the movie is framed that he's constantly talking to the psychiatrist, and he's talking about how he's, he says, maybe I should just carve up my wife's face so she looks like me, and then she would understand, and then she would desire me again. And the psychiatrist is trying to laugh it off, and he's like, no, I'm serious. I think maybe I'm just going to disfigure her so that she will be like me, and then we'll love each other again. She'll understand what this is. And you get that he's not being...
Or she'll have no use for him. She'll be like him, and she'll say, I don't really need you.
Well, that could have been an outcome of it. It never gets to that point. But you understand that, or at least my read of him, isn't that he's being malicious. He just thinks this is the only way that there's somebody else like him.
It sounds almost like a Joker origin, doesn't it?
Yes, sort of.
Remember in the Dark Knight, he tells us he tells a lot of lies, but one of the lies he tells about his wife and how they cut her face, so he cuts his face. Except now she can't stand the look of him. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
It's exactly that. And that's, whether that was a factor in Nolan's thing, I don't know. But it certainly wouldn't surprise me if he was aware of this, because that is what it comes off as, is the idea of, if she doesn't understand what's happening to me, so if I make her understand, then we'll be perfect for each other. Like it's a version of that. But it's also clear that he is losing some of his empathy, or has lost it already. So the psychiatrist says, well, I've got a radical idea if you want to try it. And he's like, what? And it's interesting because there's times where they take the bandages off, but you never see his face. You always see it distorted in like through a weird beaker or something. But you can tell he looks like a human skull. Like most of his face is missing, including his nose, that type of thing. But you never see it directly, which I think is a very smart move. You always have to imagine how bad it is. So he says, well, what if we can create for you? Because he says, I do prosthetics, which is, I guess psychiatrists could also be prostheticians, if that's how you say it. But I don't know if that's typical. But he is in an office full of hands and feet and limbs and shit. That was strange. Anyway, so he says, well, what if we could make you a face? And he says, well, how are you going to make my face? My face was destroyed. He says, well, we can't make yours, but we could go find somebody and, we agree on the person, and we could take a mold of that person's face.
Why can't they use his face? Aren't there photographs?
Well, I think, okay, don't forget this is the 60s, right? So I think the idea is the only way you make a lifelike mask is you have to mold it.
Oh, so you need, I got it. Okay, so they're not just doing this like, this isn't like an art thing. They're actually they need a mold.
No, they want to make a mask that nobody could tell he was wearing.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Not like a, paper mache mask that you could just wear. No, this is, so today you would do a laser. You could probably do it from photos and scan it. But in the 60s, no, the only way is to get somebody and actually do a physical mold like you would do for a latex mask, like a Halloween mask.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, well, yeah, all right, let's try it. And the psychiatrist says, well, I have to warn you though. There's a possibility that by wearing somebody else's face, your personality might change because it's not you. So you may act differently. And he's like, well, I'm willing to take let's do it. Screw it. So they go and they find a guy and they pay him a bunch of money and they mold his face and they create, and obviously what they did was they got the actor. And I think that's why you never see the guy to begin with. So they didn't, although they do some really interesting effects later where he's partially peeling it off and it does look very good for mid 60s. It looks really good. So they get this guy's face and it's successful and they put the face on him and he's now looks, you can't tell the face is on there. And so he's like, wow, this is interesting. He's like, I'm going to try to see if people know it's me. So he tells his wife, before he gets the mask, he doesn't tell her what's going on. He says, oh, I have to go on a business trip for work. I'm going to be gone for a week. And she's like, that's fine, because she really kind of doesn't want him around anyway. So it works out fine. So he's like, all right. And so they give him the mask and the psychiatrist says, okay, the condition of me doing this is you need to tell me, what it's like to wear somebody else's face. What I want you to come back to me regularly and we'll still have our sessions. And I want to know what you're thinking, what changes, what you do. Right. And so he does this thing where he leaves town, or he leaves his house, and he says, I'm going to go on business. And what he actually does is nearby, he rents an apartment. And what he starts doing is social experiments. So he goes to the place where he works. And when he had the bandages on, his boss, you could tell the boss was trying to be nice, but really didn't want him around. Like he was disturbed by, I mean, you would be. Anybody who looks like this would be disturbing to people. And so when he shows up initially, when he still has the bandages, he says hello to the secretary, and he kind of like hits on her, and she doesn't know what to do. And he's like, I'm just kidding. Don't worry. I'm just being bold because I don't have a face, or something. He makes some joke. And then when he comes back as the other person, he hits on her again, and she's more receptive because now he has a face. And so this is part of his test to see if people can detect whether it's him or not. And then where he's renting the apartment, the daughter of I think it's supposed to be the daughter of the landlord. She's clearly mentally slow. There's something, she seems, she's acting younger. She has a child's mind, and she sees through it right away. He says, oh, hello, how are you? And she says, oh, I know you. And he says, no, I just started renting but she recognizes it. She sees through it right away. So she recognizes that he has a different face, but he's the same person. So then he decides that he's going to try to seduce his own wife. And he does it.
And you knew this was coming. Yeah.
Right. Of course. There was going to be this angle of it. Now, there's also something interesting where he goes to see a movie. And I understand this is part of the book. And I think in the book, it's also supposed to be like a story within a story. So he goes to the movies, and the only reason and some people may not even notice this. In fact, I didn't really pick up on it at first either, is the movie that he goes to see now becomes part of the movie outside of the theater. So the only way that you know it is the aspect ratio changes, because when it's reality, it's in a 4:3, like a old style television boxed in thing. And then when it's the movie, it's widescreen. It changes, and you can tell that it's a different thing. And so basically what happens is in the movie within the movie, no other way to put it, there's a girl who has a disfigurement on the one side of her face is burned on one side. And when she first shows up, you hear like Hitler's speeches and stuff and what you're meant to think. And I didn't put this together either at first until I remembered that this movie was from the 60s. And so Hiroshima and Nagasaki would have happened within this girl's lifetime. And she lives by the I guess is it called the Sea of Nagasaki or Nagasaki Sea? I think she calls it Nagasaki Sea, but I think it's also known as the sea, whatever. So you figure out that this is a burn from a nuclear weapon, did this scarring. And so this is kind of a mirroring of, okay, he's disfigured, so is she. She works at a veterans center for Japanese veterans from World War II, who sometimes try to sexually molest her. Like they run after her because, a lot of them are mentally ill and everything else. Children taunt her, all this kind of thing. So the movie is all about the alienation of people when they don't look the way people think you should look. And so it intercuts back and forth, which I can understand. There are people who are thrown off by that. And I get why, because the movie doesn't really, it's obviously a decision on how to do it. Whether it's the most effective way to do it, some people will find it to be a little jarring. I get it. I also can understand people who say the movie runs a little too long. I think that it probably could have been shorter and still accomplished everything. I don't care, because I found it fascinating the way this whole movie operated, but it definitely does feel like it's probably a little longer than it needs to be, but I don't care. It's fine. But I understand why some people are like, yeah, this probably could have been 30 minutes shorter. And if they had kind of done that part with the movie thing better, it might've been a little more clear what was going on, because there's a lot of dream logic that starts bleeding over, and that's fine, but it starts off very grounded and then it becomes very dreamlike. So I know some people struggle with that. That's the only kind of bad thing about it, or the thing that some people will have to just know going in.
You know what? That actually what reminds me, that's oh God, Was that movie Big Blue with Eric Serra?
Yes. That
Yeah,
great
or like
the Freediver movie, yeah.
Yeah, well, like it starts out very sort of straightforward, and then as the movie goes on,
then his bedroom fills with water, and he goes to find a dolphin.
Yes, there you go. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Yes. That's actually or a David Lynch film. So yes, Big Blue is a good analog for it. So basically, he manages to seduce his wife, gets her into the apartment with him, and starts to have sex with her, and then basically blows his top and starts flipping out. And he says, "Don't you realize that how could you fall for this so easily? I'm your husband. I'm just wearing a mask." And he starts to like melt down. At which point she says, "Yeah, I know. I thought you were doing that because you love me and you wanted me to feel more comfortable around you." And so he's partially ripped his face off at this point, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, whether it's true or not, it's a great angle.
It is. And because then she goes into this thing about, why do you think women so often wear makeup? We all put on masks for each other. We all try to appear like something different because we don't want to be seen for what we actually are. Everybody wears a mask of something, like she's talking about, lots of just general stuff. And you can apply that, of course, to how people act in different company, everything. And so, so then she's like, well, the fact that you just tried to do this to somehow prove that I just wanted to be with somebody else means you don't love me and it's over. And she leaves him. And at which point he's basically like psychically blown out. Like this is towards the end of the movie and he's just kind of lost it at this point. So he just starts wandering around the street and then he just attempts to rape a woman for some reason or assault her or whatever. And he gets caught by the cops and they arrest him and they find the psychiatrist's card on him. And so they call the psychiatrist and he says, psychiatrist's like, "Oh, no. He's mentally deranged. He was under treatment. He escaped. He's not actually a danger to anybody." And he basically gets him out because he wants to keep talking to him. He wants to know what's going on. So, and as they're walking away from the police station, right before that, so the guy goes to his apartment and he gets a knife and wraps it up in cloth and kind of hides it. And he goes to meet up with the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist says, "Don't you understand that you are completely free? You have someone else's face. You can do anything that you want." And as they're walking, now everybody that's walking towards them, they all have masks on. They all these really creepy kind of what look like almost like unfinished paper mache masks on. If you have the video
I saw the image of that. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just flooding past them. And I think it's supposed to be the guy seeing the world now in a different way because of what his wife said about everybody wearing masks. So now he's seeing the fact that everybody hides themselves somehow. I think that's what it's supposed to be. It's never explicitly said that way, but I don't know how else you would really interpret it. As that's going on, we cut back to the girl, and the girl lives with her brother. And the girl says to her brother, because she's basically shunned from everybody else, her brother's the only one who loves her. She's laying there and she says, "Come kiss me," which I'm like, uh-oh. And so he comes over to her and he starts kissing her scar. And I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to be about. Like, I was like, oh, this is gross, man. So he's kissing her on the scar and he's crying. And then, like, it cuts away from that. It goes back to the guy and the psychiatrist. And then it cuts back. And now the brother's laying there. And he wakes up and he looks over and the sister is gone. And there's a note. And he reads the note. And the note basically, it says something about how... what does she say? She says something about, I can't be part of society, so I've decided that I just don't want to be part of it. And he looks out the window, and he opens the window with his arms like wide, and he's looking, and she's walking into the ocean, and she kills herself. She just walks into the sea and drowns herself. And he yells, like in anguish, and then there's this bright flash, and he just becomes meat, like he's been incinerated by an atomic bomb. So then we cut back to... the guy and the psychiatrist.
Getting very sort of art.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not expressing at all how arty this film is. It is, because there's all these weird, interesting. Like I said, the psychiatrist's office, almost like he's God. He's in this weird space that doesn't feel like it's anywhere on the actual planet. It just feels like it's separate from reality somehow. And then he's got this woman who's his assistant, and she's talking about how, like, she's sort of flirting with him, and she's like, well, if you wanted to wear a mask, doctor, then maybe you could seduce me away from my husband. Like, there's all this weird shit going on with them, too, but that's separate. So finally, it's the two of them. They're walking through these sea of people with masks, and the psychiatrist says this thing about, you are a truly free man. with this mask, you can now do whatever you want. And he's like, you're right, I can. At which point he stabs the psychiatrist in the back, kills him. And then he walks up to the camera and he just starts like feeling his face. Like he just starts pushing and squeezing at his face. And then the movie just ends. And I was like, holy shit, this is way fucking more, art house than I expected. I thought it was going to be kind of a straightforward type of movie.
Apparently that's one of, 4 movies they did together?
Yeah, which makes me now want to watch all the other ones because this one is something. I mean...
Third of 4. This is the third of 4 film collaboration.
Yeah.
With the director, the author, and then apparently the guy who does the music.
Well, I now want to see the other ones based on this one. Wow, apparently this one is called more palatable than some of the other ones. Holy shit. Whoa, that tells me something.
Well, I'm looking forward to the review of the other ones.
Well, apparently he did The Woman in the Dunes as well. Oh, interesting. Wow, the other one was nominated for 2 Academy Awards. 64. Huh. About a woman who collects tiger beetles and other insects. Okay. Well, you know what? I'll watch them. This one, I don't know what the storylines of the other ones are. If it's like this, I really don't care what the story is. It was just a fascinating, yeah, here we go. One recurring image is the large and small severed ears, which appear in the scenery in several scenes. Like, okay, here is office. A strange blank space with glass partitions was designed by architect Arata Isozaki. The glass walls are painted with Langer's lines and Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian. Oh, yeah, the Leonardo thing is Arata. Yeah. Yeah, the film uses multiple doublings of shots by repeating shots verbatim, but placing the main character in nearly identical shots twice. Yeah, it's strange. It's a fascinating movie. I was really, really impressed with it. But like I said, it's very, very arty. So I thought it was going to just be a kind of Japanese Hammer horror film, like just kind of a classic horror movie. I did not expect this. This is much better.
I think you should totally watch the next one in this series.
What's the next one called?
Which is called The Man Without a Map.
Sure, I'll watch it. Yeah.
A detective is assigned to find a missing man by a beautiful female who is a wife of the lost person. The more the detective attempts to unravel the mystery, the deeper he is dragged into the world of delinquency and pornography, where he begins to question his own identity. Numerous facts, frequently contradictory with one another, render the whole riddle more impenetrable, and the investigation becomes overflowed with pointlessness.
This is also a Criterion release.
Yeah. It is an exquisitely scripted piece of profound cinema which inquires about one's personality in the hostile modern civilization.
Okay, I'll watch that.
A dreary existential film noir.
Ooh, up my alley. Yeah.
Yeah, so you might have some movies to watch.
I might. I mean, that's, like I said, based on this, I would watch all the other ones.
I watched about 5 minutes of it, and the thing that kept flashing in my head was that movie Les Samurai, the French movie.
Sure.
Like, it reminds me of that for some reason.
Well, in my opinion, I'll just say, because they're Les Samurai.
You've seen the whole movie.
Well, no, but Les Samurai is a beloved film, and so I know my opinion on that movie as being a bit shallow is not shared by all.
I still find it hilarious. It's a beloved film. It's an okay film.
I'm telling you, man, there are people who revere that the way I revere Stalker. So whatever, different strokes for different folks. That's fine. I'm sure there are people who think that Stalker is not an actual, legitimately beautiful piece of artwork and thinks it's somehow boring because there's not.
I would rather watch Big Trouble in Little China any day.
Than what?
Then I hate to put it to Les Samurai or Stalker.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Is different people want different things. So that's fine, but I would, if I'm going to compare Les Samurai and The Face of Another, I think The Face of Another is a far superior film. That's where I was going with that. Was if it's between those two, I know which one I'm watching again. I will never watch Les Samurai again. I mean, it was fine, but
Let's be clear. I will never watch Les Samurai again either.
Yeah, but I would watch The Face of Another again.
It does leave. You know what Les Samurai is for me? I've come to realize. it is a collection of images and ideas that kind of go on to be used better in other places. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like there are things
that is absolutely accurate. It is a very good pastiche of scenes and visuals and things that are used to better effect in other movies that got incorporated.
Yeah, and so in that respect, everyone looks at La Samurai and says it's a genius for that. But the thing is, you can take all those parts. You know, it's like taking the parts of 12 different animals and putting them together and being like, this is the ultimate animal. But it's like a you know, like a human centipede type creature.
But the thing is just going in a giant circle on the ground, chewing at nothing.
Yeah, it's like whereas if you pull the parts pull it all apart, you have 12 exquisite animals.
Yes.
And that's how I feel about the Samurai. There's a lot of imagery, there's a lot of ideas, but you know what? I liked it. I like it more for the people it affected to make their movies.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. No, I completely agree.
You know,
completely agree.
And I think there's a whole kind of generation of that. You know, movies that are, for me, more important for who they inspired, necessarily for what they are as a movie.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So yes, I would. So like I said, it's a much more deep. It's a deeper film than you might think in reading the initial thing. Now, see, I didn't know. All I went by was that imagery, and I just thought, oh yeah, okay, because there are some really good wacky Japanese horror films from that, like House. You know, House it's not a particularly deep film. It's like you said, it's a movie that is no more for its visuals and its wackiness than, you know, being a deep, thoughtful deliberation on the nature of horror. It's actually described as an experimental comedy horror film from 1977, right? You don't watch that because, you know, it's going to be a deep exploration of a haunted place and its effect on the people within it. You watch it for the gonzo visuals, but it's still a great movie. I almost thought this was going to be a Japanese riff on the, you know, either the, as you said, the Invisible Man, or, you know, kind of a Frankenstein experiment kind of thing where the psychiatrist was going to make the guy into a monster. And instead it was a very, very philosophical deliberation on the nature of loneliness.
I thought it was going to be something where he gets different faces and the psychiatrist is watching how the different faces bring out different aspects of his identity. Yeah.
Something like that. And that's not at all what this is. It really is
not. Instead, what it sounds like to me is the idea that this man thought, oh, well, I've lost my face. Now it's almost like I'm wearing a mask. No one can see how I feel. And then when he is given a real face that is a mask that makes people treat him better, he realizes that everyone is in fact wearing a mask.
And he also makes some comments, which in a modern context are very, very, you know, we see it all over the place, about how when somebody has somebody else's face, doesn't have their own face, they act with less regard because they don't think they're being seen. Kind of the whole thing where if you're anonymous online, you have no problem bullying people a lot of times. It's like one of those type of things where he's like, yeah, when you're not seeing my face, I can act with impunity because you don't know it's me. So yes, the people in his life who know about the accident know him, but nobody else does.
Yeah. Interesting.
I liked it. Like I said, may not be for everybody, and don't go into it thinking it's going to be lightweight horror. It is. I wouldn't even call it a horror film. It's described as more of a psychological thriller, I guess.
This is one of those movies that you watch as an assignment. You cannot watch one of these movies the same way you watch like like you would watch Blue Beetle. Yeah, you can watch Blue Beetle and be like, kind of like, whatever, it's fun, ha ha ha. You know, okay, I'm gonna go my day. Whereas a movie like this has something to say, and you cannot play with your psyche like that unless you're prepared. Now you do this all the time, so like you're always kind of prepared. But even there's a few movies that even you have had to like step away from and get a, you know.
Oh yeah, there are movies I'll never watch again.
Yeah, but even the watching of, you needed something to cleanse your palate.
Oh sure, I mean,
like that movie. There's a movie that Anthony Hopkins directed called Slipstream.
Yeah, sure.
That movie made me feel like I was going crazy.
Yeah,
that movie is a a stream of thought, wacky,
Well-
not even wacky. It's like a weird art film where time and it just gets you are lost in this narrative that is just not even there.
I'll
where,
give
like-
you a perfect example of that type of movie. And actually, it's funny because this is also one my wife and I, we both watch it, but we have to know we're going to watch it, which is the Twin Peaks movie, Fire Walk with Me.
Oh yeah.
It's
I could
a
see that.
magnificent movie, but it is
it's
2
a
hours of
magnificent-
Laura
it's-
Palmer being tortured. That's what
It's
it
a
is.
magnificent movie for somebody who gives a shit about Twin Peaks. For somebody who never watched Twin
You know what?
Peaks
I
sat down and saw that movie, I watched that movie and I was kind of like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, I'd push
we've
back
talked-
on that slightly.
And we've talked about this before.
Well, I would say if you want to see probably one of the best acting performances by a woman who is completely under duress for the entirety of the movie, because there are people who watch movies for performances. You don't have to care about Twin Peaks for that.
She's very good, and it is fucked up what's happening to her. But the thing is, it helps when you've got context.
Well, it definitely is. It's a fascinating thing that what somebody who didn't. The problem with I'll give you. This is what I would say. The biggest problem with not being a Twin Peaks fan with Fire Walk with Me is the David Lynch inness of it, because it is so structurally weird.
When I watched Twin Peaks afterwards, right, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And it's not that it made it a better movie to me. It just made, it's not that it's not a bad movie. That's what I'm saying. But it's like, it made sense to me as a movie.
Right.
Whereas when I watched it before, I was kind of watching it going, what is the point of this?
But even as Twin Peaks fans, we can't just sit down and watch Fire Walk with Me.
No, because
we
it's
could do
rough.
the series. Yeah, because it is very tough to watch.
Yeah, it's a mean movie.
So what you're saying about you have to be in the right mind space. Yes, my wife and I can watch the Twin Peaks series anytime. No problem.
That movie, it ends with what sets off the entire series.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, which is her murder. It's the last 24 hours of a abused and tortured woman dying.
Yeah.
Psychically and then physically.
And so think about that. Think about another movie or series that would have a prequel like that.
Yeah, nothing. Listen, one of the many reasons that I absolutely adore David Lynch as a creator and an artist is that he made the exact prequel and sequel to a beloved thing of his that nobody thought that was not at all what most people wanted.
You know what? I'm going to bring in Man of Steel here for a second, right? For me, the most interesting part of Man of Steel, I'm sure you remember.
What, the Jarrell stuff?
It's the Jarrell stuff, because it makes sense that is a washed out world. It makes sense that it looks that way. And it is this fantastic idea of what does a brilliant man do when he knows his world is doomed. What lengths will he go to? What will he do to protect anything that matters to him, right? I do think that the first part of that movie should just be lopped off and be its own short film.
No, listen, the Krypton stuff I have no issue with, except the dildo rockets. That just,
well, yeah, of course,
there's something going on there. But outside of that, I think that part is, you're exactly right. What should have happened was then Earth should have been the colorful, bright, hopeful contrast.
Yes, exactly. But the whole idea is that if you had made a prequel that ended with Krypton being destroyed.
Oh yeah, well they did make a Krypton show, but it wasn't quite like
but it was way before.
Yeah, it was okay.
But if you made a Krypton movie with Russell Crowe, right, where the end of the movie is Russell Crowe victorious because he got his son off the planet. And then otherwise, the last shots of the movie are everyone just dying.
Let me tell you something. I would have loved, and this may sound stupid, but if it was done properly, I would have loved it. A Shyamalan type movie where they never told you what the name of the planet was.
Oh, you couldn't have hidden that for long.
Well, no, you know what? You say that, but you know what? Think about climate change. Yes, you could. You could do it. If it was done right, it would. I'm not saying it'd be easy. I don't know how you do it, But there, you could have done a movie that was all about somebody's futility in the face of people who wouldn't listen to him and knowing what was coming. And then at the very end, you don't ever mention the name of the planet. You just kind of think it's a far future Earth, just presented as a future where the ignorance of what was coming is going to cost these people their lives, whatever.
The problem is the names.
Yeah, well, you could bounce around that somehow.
But I see but that's to some degree that is what Fire Walk with Me reminds me of. Is this idea of a doomed prequel. Where it's like you're seeing the thing that set off an entire series, and it's awful. And it has to be awful.
Well, here's the thing about it, which is again why I have so much respect for the fact that David Lynch made this fucking movie, because it is such a bad idea if you were to describe it to somebody. Because here's how you describe it, right? So sit down and somebody says, "Okay, what's this movie?" Okay, well, for people who've seen the series, it's the last 24 hours of a character whose death frames the entire series. Well, wait a minute, David. So you mean this is all about her dying? Yes. Well, does she just die in her sleep? Oh, no. She is being raped by her father. She is being tormented by an otherworldly demon, and she doesn't believe that anybody in her life is genuine, and all she's trying to do is not go crazy. That's the whole movie. Yes. Okay. Well, so what about somebody who hasn't seen the show? What are they going to see? Oh, well, those people are going to watch a woman being horrendously abused for 2 hours and then dying at the end.
And wonder what the fuck I just watched. Yeah.
Well, forget that. But just the fact that she dies. Even if you put the already stuff aside, if you don't know the series, you don't know she's going to die.
Honestly,
like, surely she will be saved. No.
It comes off like a snuff film.
Well, there is the angel that appears at the end. So technically you could, but man, after all of that, I don't know that that's enough for the average viewer who doesn't know what the series is. I don't know that the angel appearing is enough. You will have watched this woman just be horrifically tormented for so long.
I'm telling you right now, it wasn't enough for me.
No. That's what I'm saying is that's why my respect for it is this is the equivalent of a movie that could not possibly be successful. It couldn't, and on top of it, okay, David, all right, I got it. Okay, so I understand it'll be a hard sell for people who haven't watched the series, but the people who watch the series, they'll feel like this was a good.
You should begin and end this with your whole film board, your film executive boardroom like idea. The bunch of board guys deciding why this should make every DC movie look like fucking Batman. But it's the same thing with this. Yeah. It's amazing because how did he bring this movie pitch to them? No, and they somehow were like, no, you know what? Yeah, we're going to go with that.
Because it was because Twin Peaks was popular. That's exactly how it got done. But there again, all right, so the same suits. Okay, David, we got it. So non-fans probably are not going to come to this. Fans will show up. So will the fans get what they want, which apparently they all like this Dale Cooper character. You're going to have a lot of him, right? No, I'm going to barely have him in it at all. In fact, we're going to start out with two agents they've never heard of, and half the movie until maybe, I'm going to say 10 minutes. Otherwise, you're not going to see Dale Cooper at all. But that's the character everybody likes. Yeah, but we're not going to use much of him. Yeah, the fact that movie ever fucking got made is... you sit there and go, how? Because it could not possibly... So either there's one of two possibilities, and I don't know anything about how it was made. One is he lied. One is he said, I'll give the fans exactly what they want. It's going to be a little weird, but it's going to be what they want.
Man.
And he lied.
That'd be funny if he lied.
Or they said, well, you can make whatever you want because we know people will show up, just like they did with Twin Peaks Season 3. And that's got to be, because how the fuck else does this idea get green lit? It makes no sense. And yet, I'm glad he didn't just make a Dale Cooper movie. How fucking boring would that have been? But you're right. For you, no. For most people, no. For the people who love it, they love it. Anybody else, no.
I'm looking to see if there's any information on how that movie got
There
made.
probably is. I mean, I've never read it, so I'm just in my head trying to work out. And the only thing I can think of is that probably what they said was, As long as it's got the Twin Peaks name, we don't care. People will show up.
So basically, it can call it Twin Peaks and have it be an episode of like My Little Pony, and somehow.
Well, I mean, I'm sure in truth he said, well, Laura Palmer will be in it, same actress. Dale Cooper will be in it. We're not going to say how much. It will tie into the series. Not a lie. None of those things are lies. But the movie is not what people thought it was going to be. People expected a sequel, not a prequel. And they sure as shit thought there would be more Kyle MacLachlan in it. So.
Oh, wow. Did you know this is supposed to be part of 4 movies?
Which one?
According to the writer, he and director Lynch originally conceived this film as the first in a series of films exploring the mythology of the Black Lodge. To that effect, the 2 inserted 4 characters as outs with which to continue the story.
Chris Isaac.
It was Dale Cooper, Agent Philip Jeffries, which is Bowie.
Well, that's Bowie.
Major Garland Briggs, Don Davis, and then Agent Chester Desmond, Chris Isaac. However, the critical and box office failure of this film caused Lynch to abandon any plan for sequels.
Listen, okay, I'm going to tell you something that I have always gotten a sense from when it comes to Mark Frost and David Lynch. Those guys' ideas of what would be successful have never been connected to any tangible reality that we live in. Meaning, sure, there would be 4 films. Assuming anybody would watch the first one, which there's no way they could have actually thought people would, because it's too fucking out there. Unless you're a weirdo like me. And there aren't enough weirdos like me to bring the box office to a studio that they're going to want. Of course, they could have written 20 films. I could write 20 films. Nobody's going to fucking watch them, but you could write them. So, yeah, they were never going to get 4 films out of this thing. Never. You know,
I'm scanning the trivia to see if there's any information how they duped them into making this movie.
Well, I have a hunch they just selected. Because also don't forget Suits aren't going to necessarily ask very probing questions. Is Laura Palmer going to be in it? Yes. Is it going to connect to the series? Yes.
Does she get naked? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is there nudity? There was. Is Kyle MacLachlan going to be in the movie? Yes. We're going to have Dale Cooper appear. All right, we're fine. It's going to take place in Twin Peaks, right? Well, some of it will. All right, fine, whatever. David, people will show up. That's fine. Go make it. Here's how much money you have. Do whatever you want. We know you make weird shit. That's fine. Just make sure those things are in it. Will do, buddy.
Yeah, maybe it's the whole Kevin Smith thing. Maybe as long as he makes it for low enough of a budget and it eventually makes the money back, they're like, okay, here you go, Lynch, make another movie.
Well, I think. Well, okay. There's. One thing is Lynch is notoriously very, very good to all the people he works with, which probably helps. Everybody likes working with him. That's a plus. You don't always get that. So that's probably one thing. And the other is...
Hold on, though.
Yeah.
I have a really great... This is a really ironic quote from Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, good.
So apparently in 92, in an interview, Tarantino said, again, this is very ironic. After I saw Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me at Cannes... David Lynch had disappeared so far up his own ass that I have no desire to see another David Lynch movie until I hear something different. And you know what? I loved him.
Yeah.
It's just very funny coming out of Tarantino's mouth.
Well, I mean...
Who is like at risk of often disappearing up his own ass.
Yeah, that's one of those consider the source types of things.
I know. It's just very funny, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's look. I like Quentin Tarantino, but I don't necessarily like the guy. Let's put it like that.
Oh, yeah, of course,
like movies. But I think he is, one of the people who has...
I just love to know, like... I've come to a point in my life where I'm almost more fascinated by the how.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I agree. No, I'm like you with that. Listen, I've talked about movies where I've said multiple times about movies I've reviewed. Boy, I'd love to know how this got. What's the backstory?
Yeah, like how did this get there?
Yeah.
Like I recently was watching something about Total Recall, and it was about how I guess Arnold wanted to be in RoboCop. I didn't know this. I completely forgot. Arnold wanted to be in RoboCop, and then he didn't. For some reason, there's something happened. He didn't do it. And then he loved RoboCop and the way it came out. He desperately wanted to work with Paul Verhoeven. So then Paul Verhoeven and him ended up working on Total Recall, where Paul Verhoeven met Sharon Stone, loved Sharon Stone in that movie, and that's the reason why he then cast her in Basic Instinct. And I love in an interview with him, he basically said, "I love the way that Sharon Stone can go from like really sweet and nice to being like a fucking psychopath." He goes, "Which is much how she is in real life." But it's like I love those weird connections where you're like, oh, so this is how all these movies kind of end up falling into each other. You know, it's like how you get from RoboCop to Basic Instinct.
So I think I have a bit of an idea of how the Fire Walk with Me got made.
They lied?
No. It's the other one, the popularity. The movie, a French company announced that they were going to finance the movie a month after the show was canceled. Okay. So because it got canceled, it was still immensely popular.
Oh, so was it not a U.S. company that financed the movie?
Well, I mean, it says French company financing production. I don't know if
So maybe they just didn't realize what they were doing.
Or don't forget, non-Americans more familiar with art stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean?
They're like,
so
yeah.
Hey,
who knows?
So you know what? He probably said people will show up for this, and they were like,
good for him
whatever.
That he got it made.
Yeah.
I don't ever need to see that movie again.
Sure.
I'm not really sure I wanted to see that movie. That was one of those movies too. I'm sure you've had this. I'm sure many viewers have. You ever had this movie where a significant other says, "You got to watch this," and then you watch it, and then the fact that you don't you're not in awe of it, gets you in trouble.
Sure.
So the girlfriend I had at the time fucking loved this movie, and she was the one that was like, "Oh, you don't need to see Twin Peaks," and then we went and saw it, and then she was really upset with the fact that I was like, "No, I didn't like this. What the hell did we just watch?" This is one of those movies that like I lost interest, and I probably would have walked out halfway through out of boredom.
Sure.
But I knew I was going to get in trouble. I'm sure you've had movies like that.
Oh yeah. Well, this is, and here's the irony of what you just said. In this case, my wife was not necessarily on board to watch this movie, and not only did she watch it for me, we watched the entire restored cut, which is about 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh my God, you bastard!
And she loves it.
Okay, now she good that it worked.
Yeah,
because
she's way. But I to be fair about it, Twin Peaks is at the outer edge of her weirdness tolerance.
Yeah, I know.
But she does adore so much of what's in it that she doesn't care about the stuff where she's like, I don't know what's going on here. And she loves Kyle MacLachlan, so that also helps.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Mr. Muad'Dib himself.
Yes, indeed. Which I bought the book on the making of that movie, and it is fascinating so far.
Like, my wife hates Dune. She thinks it's weird and boring.
I haven't shown my wife Dune yet.
And the thing is, like, honestly, I love the books. This is a Ghost in the Shell thing. I love the books.
Yeah.
And the movie isn't the books, but I love the movie as well. And when I think we've talked about this, when I saw the miniseries was more like the books, which was good. But the movie is very good. Yeah, the movie is very good. You know, and like I haven't seen the new one yet. But from what I've read,
I saw the first part.
Did he skew closer? I mean, I can't even remember. Did he skew closer to?
Yeah. If you don't remember, my review was extraordinarily faithful but extremely sterile.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
I don't even remember most of it. I just know.
Which is funny because I don't think of Frank Herbert as being sterile. Frank Herbert is not. I don't. Yeah, there's.
Well, no, I don't think the material is. I think what.
No, I think
Villeneuve
the way people
did was very clinical.
Yeah. I don't think we have seen the best version of Frank Herbert's Dune yet.
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know that we ever will. You know what movie they should make, just for shits and giggles? They should totally make The White Plague.
I was just about to say White Plague, right? Yeah.
Because that is a brutal, brutal book.
There's a David Lynch film.
Man, he could do it too. Fuck.
Just don't tell him it's a Frank Herbert thing. He'd be too burned on it.
You know what two directors could really do that movie?
Besides David Lynch?
Who's the guy who did The Road?
Oh, yeah. What is that guy's name?
What was his name?
The Road movie. What was it called? Yeah, I know who he.
Yeah, that guy could totally do it.
Who directed it? Cormac McCarthy did the novel. Who directed it? Directed by John Hillcoat.
Yeah, he could do it.
Yeah. Sure.
He could do it.
Yeah.
So, well, on that note.
Yep, that's it. So
I'm just going to walk myself out now.
Yep. Let's go walk into the ocean, and I'll get incinerated by an atomic bomb. But yeah.
And turn to meat.
And turn to what it really does look like they took a chicken and just kind of stretched it. I don't know. You can see it in the YouTube video. I don't remember where it is. I mean, it's towards the end where he gets incinerated. And it does look like it's a chicken on hooks. So I don't, that's fine. They spent all the effects budget on all the prosthetics in the magic limbo space of the psychiatrist. That's fine. Anyway, on that note, have a nice weekend, everybody. Try not to walk into the ocean or get yourself atomic flambéed. Go watch Blue Beetle if you want a happier experience. Face of Another, good movie, but for the right time, as Lando says, when you're in the right mindset.
Be prepared for an art fuck movie.
An art fuck movie, indeed. On that note, have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.